She showed up the very next morning, hair stiff with spray, sunglasses flashing like mirrors in the sunlight, fury carved into every line of her face. She slammed the SUV door and marched straight toward me, waving a clipboard like it was a weapon. "You can't block this road," she snapped. "This is community property." I brushed the dust from my hands and looked at her calmly. "Ma'am," I said, nodding toward the wooden sign I'd just nailed into the post. "Private road. No HOA access." Her jaw dropped like I'd personally insulted her entire family tree. "You can't do that. I'm the president of the Oak Valley HOA." "That's nice," I replied evenly. "But this ranch isn't part of Oak Valley. Bought it last month. And this road," I tapped the post, "belongs to me." Her voice cracked as she screamed. "We've used this road for 20 years. You can't just take it away." Behind her, a couple of her HOA buddies stood awkwardly, pretending to text while clearly recording everything. I watched their smirks fade when I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded county map. "County records say otherwise," I told her. "You might want to check before yelling on someone else's land." Her face flushed red. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll have you fined, sued, and arrested by the end of the week." I leaned against the fence and smiled. "Good luck with that. Just make sure you bring real cops next time." For a moment, the air went completely still. Then she spun on her heel, nearly tripping over a rock, and stormed back to her SUV. Gravel sprayed as she peeled away, tires screeching. I watched her go, shaking my head. But deep down, I knew this was far from over. Karen wasn't the type to back down, and I wasn't the type to give up what I'd earned. The fight over that dirt road had just begun. 2 days later, I woke to the sound of multiple engines. I stepped onto the porch, coffee still warm in my hand, and saw 3 white SUVs parked right outside my gate. Karen stepped out first, wearing a blazer this time, like she was about to hold a press conference. Behind her stood 2 men in uniforms that looked almost right but not quite. Their badges were shiny. Too shiny. She raised her clipboard and shouted, "Sir, you are in violation of county code. Open this gate immediately or face arrest." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Arrest for what?" One of the fake officers barked. "This road belongs to Oak Valley HOA. Step aside." I tilted my head thoughtfully. "Interesting. Because the sheriff's department doesn't use clipboards or Toyotas with HOA stickers." Karen froze. "Excuse me." I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. "You should excuse yourself. You're on camera. Security system's been running since last night." Her eyes widened for half a second before she forced a smirk. "You think filming us will save you? This land connects to our property. It's ours by association." "Association?" I chuckled. "You mean the same HOA that sent me an invoice for a house I don't even live in?" The fake officers glanced at each other, confused. One whispered, "Ma'am, maybe we should." "He's bluffing," she snapped. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and smiled. The county sheriff's name lit up the screen. "Speak of the devil," I murmured, putting it on speaker. "Morning, John," the sheriff said calmly. "Got your footage. Those aren't my guys. Keep them there. I'm on my way." Karen's face drained of color. You called the sheriff?" I set the phone down and leaned against the gate. "No, Karen. He called me." Her confidence shattered. The men backed toward their SUVs. She started yelling, "Don't you dare move. This isn't over." "Oh, I know," I said. "It's just getting started." Sirens echoed in the distance. Minutes later, the sheriff's cruiser rolled up, dust trailing behind it. He stepped out slowly, calm and controlled, the kind of man who never needed to raise his voice. Karen was shaking now, half rage, half fear. "Sheriff, thank goodness you're here," she said, rushing toward him. "This man blocked a public access road. He's endangering our community." The sheriff glanced at her, then at me, then at the fake officers. "Public access road?" he said, pulling out his tablet. "Funny. County map says otherwise." He turned the screen toward her. My property line glowed red. "This road's been privately owned since 1964. Belongs to Mr. John Everett now," Karen stammered. That's a mistake. We've always used it. The HOA has records." "Ma'am," the sheriff replied coolly, Using something without permission doesn't make it yours. That's trespassing. Her face went purple. These men are security officers. They'll confirm it. The sheriff walked over and examined a badge. That's not a real department logo. Gentlemen, step aside before I charge you with impersonating law enforcement. The two men exchanged terrified looks and climbed back into their SUV. Karen screamed, "Don't leave. You work for me." They didn't even slow down. The sheriff turned back to her. "Leave this property immediately. You're trespassing, and you brought fake officers onto private land. I could arrest you right now." She froze. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled. "He would. I just asked him not to this time." Karen shot me a look full of pure hatred. "You'll regret this." "Already told you," said quietly. "Not on my land." The sheriff leaned against his cruiser and grinned. "You've got quite a neighbor." "Yeah," I replied, watching her SUV disappear. "But she's not done yet." And I was right. The next morning, my front gate was wide open. Tire tracks cut deep into the dirt road toward my barn. I followed them, heart pounding, then saw the red spray paint dripping down the barn doors. Property of HOA Valley HOA. I went cold. I photographed everything. I didn't call the sheriff. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. By noon, my neighbor Dave pulled up. "Saw some folks poking around your land last night. Said they were putting up community signs. Drove luxury SUVs, though." "Karen," I muttered. Dave nodded. "Same one who fined me for flying a flag." That night, I set up motion cameras. At 37 a.m., my phone buzzed. There she was, Karen, whispering at my gate. "He won't even know what hit him," she said. "We'll get his power cut. Then the county shuts him down." I hit record and smiled. By morning, I was walking into the sheriff's office with the flash drive in my pocket and justice on my mind. He looked up from his coffee. "Morning, John. Something tells me you've got another HOA problem." "Not a problem," I said, sliding the drive onto his desk. "A confession?" he said, raising an eyebrow as he plugged in the drive. He didn't say another word while the footage played. Karen's voice echoed through the office speakers, sharp and unmistakable. "He won't even know what hit him. We'll get his power cut, and the county will shut him down." The sheriff paused the video and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling for a long second. "She really said that, too?" 37 a.m., I replied. "Right after she broke through my gate again." He nodded slowly. "Vandalism is one thing. Threatening to tamper with utilities? That's a federal offense." A slow grin spread across my face. "So what happens now?" He smiled back. "Now, we let her hang herself with her own clipboard." Later that day, I kept my head down and played it normal. I fixed the fence, painted over the barn, and even waved when she drove past, her smug smile practically daring me to react. She thought she'd won. What she didn't know was that the sheriff's office had already planted trackers on her SUV and quietly flagged her so-called HOA inspection team for investigation. That night, as the sun dropped behind the hills, I sat on my porch again. The sound came back: engines, SUVs, but this time, there were more of them. Karen stepped out first, followed by 4 people wearing matching HOA jackets. She yelled from the road, "This is your final warning. You'll be removed from this property by morning." I stood slowly, letting the porch light spill across my face. "Funny," I said, pulling out my phone, "because the sheriff asked me to pass along a message. Your inspection's already failed." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" Right on cue, sirens wailed closer, louder. Karen turned around, confused, as the SUVs behind her started backing up. 2 county cruisers rolled in fast, lights flashing red and blue across the dirt road. The sheriff stepped out, one hand resting on his belt. "Evening, folks. We've got reports of unauthorized entry, vandalism, and impersonating officials. Care to explain?" Karen looked around like a trapped animal. "This is a mistake. I was enforcing community standards." The sheriff pointed calmly at my phone. "Trespassing on private property and threatening to cut his power are part of those standards." She went silent. For the first time since I'd met her, she had nothing to say. The moment hung there heavy, fragile, the kind of silence that comes right before someone's world collapses. Her mouth opened, but only a faint squeak came out. The sheriff nodded to a deputy. "Ma'am, I'm going to need that clipboard." She clutched it tighter. "You can't take this. This is official HOA business." "Not anymore," he said, opening a folder. "You've been impersonating county officials, vandalizing private property, and threatening public utilities. 3 separate charges." The clipboard slipped from her hands and hit the dirt. One man behind her whispered, "Karen, maybe we should leave." She spun on him. "Don't you dare walk away. We're in this together." He shook his head and stepped back. "No, you're in this. I just came for the meetings and donuts." The deputies moved in. Karen screamed, "You can't arrest me. I am the law here. I protect this community." The sheriff didn't blink. "Not anymore. Turn around." As they cuffed her, I saw it clearly, not just anger, but shock. The disbelief of someone realizing the world doesn't bend for them. She twisted toward me, her voice breaking. "You think you've won? This isn't over. I'll sue you." You already did enough damage," I said quietly. "You trespassed, lied, and tried to ruin me. Now, you're just facing the consequences of your own rules." The sheriff nodded toward me. "We'll handle it from here, John. But keep those cameras up." Something tells me this runs deeper than her. I watched the cruisers disappear, lights fading into the dark. The air felt lighter, but his words stuck with me. Runs deeper than her. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the Oak Valley HOA logo stamped across fake documents and emails. I opened my laptop and searched the county property portal. What I found made my stomach twist. Half the HOA's properties weren't legally registered to them. One listed owner was a county clerk. By morning, I was already on the phone with the sheriff. "You were right," I said. "Karen's just the front. There's a county clerk named Derek Mills tied to half these records." He sighed. "Mills? Yeah. Complaints for years. Lost deeds, shifted parcel lines. Always brushed off as clerical errors. Except now we've got proof," I said, sending screenshots. He called back minutes later. "Those files don't exist in the county archive. Someone's editing the system from inside." "And Karen was the noise," I said. "Mills handled the paper." "Exactly. That afternoon, his office was chaos, phones ringing, deputies moving, reporters circling. He motioned me in. Mills is on the run. And your footage of Karen? It's everywhere." I laughed. "Justice finally went viral." He smirked. "Yeah, but Mills has been erasing evidence. We'll need help tracing the source." "I've got her clipboard," I said, pulling it from my truck. He flipped through it. "These aren't HOA forms. These are forged county transfers." "So we prove it," I said, and shut it all down. He finished. That night, driving home, headlights followed me too close. A black sedan, no plates. I turned off my lights and rolled toward the barn under moonlight. The sedan crept after me, parked, slipped out, and moved through the shadows. The driver stepped out, suit, polished shoes, briefcase tight in his hand. "Mr. Everett," he called softly. "We should talk." I stayed hidden. "Funny, you people usually just vandalize things," he sighed. "I'm Derek Mills." I stepped out, shotgun low but visible. "Good. Saves me a drive." He panicked. "Karen was supposed to handle the front. I just moved papers. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Fake cops and land theft usually don't," I said. He blurted it out. "Then developers, shell HOAs, council members. Your ranch was next, so you forged my deeds." "I fixed them," he said desperately, before he could finish. Floodlights snapped on. Sirens. "Derek Mills. Step away from the vehicle." The sheriff's voice boomed. Mills froze. "You set me up." "No," I said calmly. "You drove here." He dropped the briefcase and raised his hands. Deputies swarmed him. The sheriff shook his head. "Guess you were right." It ran deep. When the lights faded, the road was finally quiet. I looked down at the dirt my grandfather once worked and smiled. "This land's been through enough," I whispered. "It stays free." Weeks later, the call came. HOA dissolved. Mills indicted. Records cleared. I stood by the fence at sunset. "I didn't buy this ranch to start a fight," I said softly. "But sometimes you protect what's yours." The wind rustled the grass. I smiled and whispered the line that ended up everywhere later. They called it community property. I called it home.